The following review is intended for entertainment purposes and targeted for adult fans of the series.
Listen, if I sound confused about any of this, it's because of one thing that I need to make clear right now. I do a dance. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and welcome to another comically long review. Now, you may be wondering why an ACLR is coming out this early in the month when the Boom Power Rangers comics come out later in the month. Well, that's because today we're not talking about a Boom Studios comic. We're not even talking about a Power Rangers comic. No, it's time to talk about a transforming superhero that probably is the least mentioned on this channel. I've talked all about Power Rangers. I talked a bit about Super Sentai and Kamen Rider. I'm pretty sure I've even mentioned Garo a couple of times. But hardly ever mentioned here is the big giant kaiju fighter themselves, Ultraman. The only time I can really remember mentioning Ultraman was to say that Tattoo Teenage Alien Fighters from Beverly Hills was a mixture of Ultraman and Battle Fever J. But now I've been given a big reason to talk about the big dude. Let's talk about, and then take a look at, Marvel's The Rise of Ultraman #1. Please make sure you subscribe to my channel to see all of my videos. Ring the bell, get your notifications set up so you'll be notified whenever I post brand new videos. And if you'd like to lend any financial support to my channel, please consider checking me out on Patreon or Ko-fi at Orange Ranger Videos. Ultraman is a Japanese tokusatsu television show like Super Sentai and Kamen Rider, but produced by a different company. Tsuburaya Productions, and excuse me if I butcher that at any particular point. The show debuted in January of 1966, oddly with the show Ultra Q. Ultraman was the second series, debuting in July of 1966. The show has been on the air consecutively since January 2013 with Neo Ultra Q, but it's never been off the air for more than a few years. Lately, Tsuburaya has been engaged in a huge effort to bring Ultraman to the West. DVD sets are available in Walmart stores, and the currently running series, Ultraman Z, is streaming on YouTube internationally. However, the reason I'm talking about this on a comically long review is another aspect of that westernization, a brand new comic book series. The Rise of Ultraman is a 5-issue limited series published by Marvel, a retelling of the original Ultraman story. By which I mean the story of the show Ultraman, the second series, not Ultra Q, the first series. Though as you'll see, Ultra Q is involved in this story. Listen, there's something that I need to make clear right now. I know next to nothing about Ultraman. I've never watched any of the shows, I don't know the history. I'm coming into this basically blind. The comic series is intended to catch the American audience up on the general premise of Ultraman, establishing the story for future use. According to the Ultraman Wiki, Danny Simon of the licensing group, one of Tsuburaya's American licensing partners, approached Marvel and brokered the deal for this series. The art is done by Francesco Manna, who has done work on Fantastic Four, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Captain Marvel. One of the writers is Matt Groom, who wrote Self/Made for Image Comics and has had a story in the DC Comics anthology Crimes of Passion, as well as being one of the hosts of the Ranger Danger podcast. The other writer's name will be even more familiar to Power Rangers fans. Kyle Higgins, longtime writer of the Boom Studios Power Rangers comics, but has also written multiple big comics for Marvel, DC, and Image. Let's start talking about the covers, because a whole bunch of covers for a new #1 isn't just a Boom thing. The main cover by Alex Ross is striking. The giant Ultraman standing, people near in the frame demonstrating its size. But it's being careful, not stepping on anything. Ed McGuinness brings us this variant cover that's a familiar image to Ultraman fans. Ultraman punching towards the sky, a pose often struck while growing or flying. Adi Grainoff with this cover, where we see Ultraman fighting a kaiju in what looks like a dark city wrecked by water. This cover by Yuji Kaida is Interesting. It's an impressive piece of art, and I don't even think the kaiju is meant to look goofy, but at this angle it does, like it's wearing one of those fake nose and mustache with sunglasses things. Scotty Young provides this cover done in that cuter, chibi art style, Ultraman punching at a kaiju. By the by, Ultraman fans probably recognize some of these kaiju. I do not. John Tyler Christopher gives us something that us Power Rangers fans are familiar with, an action figure variant cover, Ultraman in the box, posed in its arms crossed finishing attack pose. This one is a really nice touch. No, this isn't a photorealistic picture, it's an actual photo, a still frame from the show. Of course, if none of these covers do it for you, you can always get this blank variant and draw your own. I saved this one for last because of what it implies, since I have to quickly dump cold water on it for now. Yes, Olivier Coipel gives us Spider-Man riding Ultraman's shoulder. Sorry, but for now, the writers have said there are no plans to cross Ultraman over with the rest of the Marvel Universe. But this is comic books. I am sure that is just for now. In 1966, an object streaks towards Earth. A Japanese pilot, Agent Moroboshi, is flying out to intercept it. He says he doesn't see anything. Ow! Hit that plane right in the kidneys. Moroboshi is barely alive, but then his body is lifted towards a glowing alien presence, large and looming, talking in an alien language. It seems to absorb the pilot.
That was a great scene.
Fast forward 54 years to 2020. Best I can tell, a woman is taking an Uber to her job in Japan, telling the driver she's a systems analyst at the Fair Trade Commission. She looks at messages from someone named Shin, who seems to be trying to take her out somewhere, though she's dodged it at least once, claiming to be tired from work. She gets dropped off, and before going in, she texts Shin and again says work is too crazy and they should do this next week. To be clear, earlier she had said that she could probably go. It's not like this is a stalker that she's trying to dodge. She walks into the lobby, which has an Yggdrasil-like tree with a waterfall coming from it, and she walks through the waterfall into the tree, both of which are holograms. A computer scans her and welcomes her, Cadet Fuji. A caption tells us this is the Japanese headquarters of the United Science Patrol, one of a certain number of regional HQs across the globe. The way the number is scratched out, I honestly thought for a second that my comic might have somehow gotten damaged in shipping. But no, this is intentional, it's redacted information. We see a large statue of Moroboshi, the pilot we saw earlier. Fuji greets director Ichino Tani and starts babbling on about something called K-rays and how they transfer energy, asking permission to study the central unit. The director basically says, "Not before my coffee." Then he says that he appreciates her enthusiasm, but basically she needs to remember her place and be patient. Suddenly she's somewhere else. Seriously, she's in a hallway with someone totally different behind her.
Space is warped and time is bendable.
Captain Muramusu here tells her to fall in behind him. She asks if she should prep the VTOL, which I'll just fill in now is the vertical takeoff and landing jet, but instead he tells her to suit up.
Excuse me, did you just say?
He holds up a damaged gun, saying it was broken on the last operation. He won't let anyone else try to fix it and doesn't have the time to wait for her to fix it, so she'll fix it while they go on their next mission. She says they have plenty of K-rays, which a caption explains are incredibly advanced weapons given to USP field agents to support the war against Redacted. He responds that this is his K-ray, there are many like it, but this one is his. She tries to defer, she's months away from her first training mission in the field, but he asks her straight up, does she want to get into the field or not? Her look says it all, and they take off. Sorry I spoiled it early, but here is where the comic explains the VTOL jet. It's powered by Redacted. It can also act as a carrier jet to transport Other redacted! Fuji thinks she has the gun fixed, confusing the captain since, it's a gun. Is it shooting? They find people running away, and we learn that this is a Men in Black type operation. The captain ordering 3 other soldiers to get the fleeing workers into a neural pod.
See you around, Jay. No, you won't.
The captain says she did an okay job on the K-Ray and tells her to grab her sidearm because she's coming in. If it breaks again, she'll be right there to fix it. And besides, it's time for her to get some field experience. They enter a meat locker. I will say this is slightly graphic, but not terrible. And the captain, fine, I'll use his name again, Muramusu, asks what Fuji sees. She says it doesn't look right. The meat is bleeding when it shouldn't be, it's darker than it should be, and the hooks are bigger. The captain says that's all to be expected. When a target pushes through into their dimension, it can alter reality around it. In fact, it can even make the captain's eyes bigger. Nah, that's just his reaction to seeing Lizard Thing dropping in from the ceiling. He tells her to always be on guard and to keep her eyes on the kaiju. He then violates that immediately, turning to tell her to use her sidearm and getting slashed on the arm for his trouble. She fires her little gun, and it zaps the monster hard with lightning.
Noisy cricket.
This is the USP Lightning Gun, the standard issue sidearm for agents. This gun was developed by Redacted and Redacteding, the skin redacted of a redacted kaiju. This comic is so informative. Fuji stares at the gun in surprise, and now she has taken her eyes off of the monster, which dives at her, but gets blasted. Heroes meet Shin, the dude that was texting Fuji, and he even gives us her first name, Kiki. Apparently Shin isn't supposed to be involved with this stuff, but he built a tracker to find these creatures. They took it away, but he just made another. The captain takes that one too, also saying he should put Shin in a neural pod, but Shin received anti-sonic implants. His memory cannot be wiped. Kiki offers to talk some sense into Shin. They go have dinner and we learn a little bit more. Shin apparently tested to be a field agent, but failed. He was invited to conditionally reapply in 3 years, but he's risking that by showing up at these incidents. He's frustrated, not even knowing how he failed, and how he can be expected to just wait now that he knows kaiju exist. She says if he won't stay low for himself, to do it for her. Her bosses know they're friends, and it makes her look bad. He wonders if they are friends, and this is where we come back to her dodging their get-togethers. She admits that's because it's awkward seeing him, since she got into the USP and he didn't. She says she shouldn't have to feel guilty because he couldn't make the cut. She does sort of apologize for her wording there, but he gets the idea. They are apparently best friends, and he hasn't treated her very well. The reason for all the offers to get together were to celebrate her getting the job. Knowing that, she offers him a deal. He can buy her dinner to celebrate, and he can agree to stay away from kaiju attacks. He cheekily says that sounds kind of lopsided, but he is happy for her. She says maybe he shouldn't be. Basically, she's been in the organization a good little while now, and they'll hardly tell her anything. She fixes the K-Rays, but doesn't know how they work. Sure, they're a secretive organization, but she's on the inside now. Why are they keeping secrets from her? Shin says she's a hero, but she feels like the secrecy means she should be scared of more than just the monsters. Another streak like the one we saw in 1966 approaches Earth. A computer comes on and we learn about Project Starlight. Except that we don't because the entire sentence is redacted. Though clearly, it's a big gun that shoots space stuff. Shin is driving Kiki home and says he always has her back. An alarm goes off on her watch and she points out a funny irony. Remember how he just agreed not to come to incident sites? Well, he was kind of her ride, so this time he doesn't have a choice. The captain is upset, but when she explains, he says to bring Shin along. They are first on the scene and cannot wait for backup, and this might just be an Emerald Alert. Super serious stuff. Besides, his shooting arm is hurt, so he needs another gun. Kiki asks what an Emerald Alert is, and the captain says it's a UFO. I figured technically that even kaiju could sort of be considered UFOs, but I'm guessing that he means a ship. Well, actually, the distinction that they draw is that the kaiju are from another dimension. This is something from another planet in this dimension. Shin says this is a first, but the captain says it's actually the second. The first was 1966. Huh. Kiki points out that this is not in their records.
It is not in the file. It is not.
She asks if this is an attack, and he says no, the object has already been shot down. With what? Classified. That would be Project Starlight, I'd imagine. Shin asks how they know it was hostile. The captain says the one in 1966 killed one of their best men. They find a crater, and inside the crater is a big old ball. For an Emerald Alert, the first priority is to kill the alien. Sounds kind of crazy, but it is a pretty defensive policy. The captain makes sure Kiki has her sidearm and gives Shin his. They move in. Something big emerges from the ball, speaking that same alien language we saw before. Muramasa tells Kiki to shoot it, but she hesitates since they don't know what it is. So he tells Shin to shoot it. He hesitates because of what Kiki said, but he says this is the real test. Shoot it! So he does, and the creature reacts in pain, and then stares at them. Shin moves closer even when the captain says not to. He starts to sense its thoughts and feelings. The creature forgives him for the attack. He realizes that evil creatures usually aren't forgiving about being shot.
Bang! Ah! Are you okay?
You shot me in the chest!
I'm sorry.
And he's made a terrible mistake. He drops his gun and asks what he can do. The creature reaches for him, and he reaches back. Their fingers touch, and he's enveloped in light, shocking the other two. This was a great introduction story. It starts slow with a lot of exposition, but it's worked in very well. Not too many characters just yet, and the cheeky redactions lend a sense of mystery to the story. And even though, yes, I do realize we have seen 2 Ultras, I know what those are, at this point, no Ultraman. They didn't rush to that just yet. Great stuff. The Rise of Ultraman, issue number 1, gets a 5 out of 5. However, we're not done. There's a few little backup features called Kaiju Steps, presented as humorous little education skits about working for the USP. Cadet Pierre and Pigmon the Kaiju teach us about the Kaiju Steps. The first teaches about not killing a kaiju until you're sure it doesn't have a power that can be reverse engineered. The second points out that kaiju are not dinosaurs. For some reason, this is step 14G. And the third teaches a lesson we learned in the story itself. If you're experiencing unreality, it's probably because you're near a kaiju. Kill it to return everything to normal. That one has a meta reference about how even monsters from comic books can come to life. But we also get a full-on backup story, a 10-page tale set in Paris in 1954. This is where we learn about Ultra Q, based on the actual first Ultraman TV series. Captain Kyoko Kato, whose name we don't get until almost the end of the story, and Specialist Satoru Ichinotani, that name sounds familiar, are investigating an incident in Paris. Satoru wants to go meet the local women in the City of Love, but Kyoko is focused on the mission. He's not even sure how they'll find it when they hear a hiss and then a growling scream from the viaduct. Suddenly, 3 French people show up, saying they shouldn't be hanging around. Kyoko suddenly kisses Satoru, and they decide to leave the 2 young lovers alone. After they leave, Kyoko is right back to business. They find scratches on the pillars that suggest it's bigger than any monster they've previously dealt with. It might be too much for them, but Kyoko says it's their responsibility. They find a gas canister, not knowing what it is or does. He hits the valve, but it's empty. Then they hear an orange growl. And look at this amazing kaiju! Spoilers, I'm gonna praise the art style here, but I love how authentic this kaiju is! This is a dude in a monster suit for sure! Kyoko rips around and pulls out an electrified sword. She's just holding the creature off, since it's twice her height and all, and Satoru fires a net gun at it, containing it. She says that Bemular here is weaker than she remembers. But then the 3 others return. The monster is surprised for some reason and shoots a fire blast, surprising Kyoko and getting free of the net. Satoru notes that it's going after the 3 now, but Kyoko says their mission isn't saving them. However, Bemular is their mission, so she has every reason to attack it anyway. She knocks it back and stabs it over a railing. It catches itself, but then she dives, stabbing it, and the 2 fall into the river. Satoru pulls Kyoko from the water, but Bemular seems to have swam away. The Frenchman thanks her for saving him, and they realize they're on the same team. Sort of. Those canisters were traps trying to knock the monster out. This is Commander Ansel of Expedition Scientifique Nationale, along with Agents Morheim and Duguette. The Japanese agents introduce themselves, and the commander already knows they come from Q.
Sometimes I think the only reason I come here is to listen to these wonderful speeches of yours.
Kyoko apologizes for interfering in their mission, saying Bemular first arrived in Japan, so she saw it as their responsibility. Commander Ansel points out more communication between the world's kaiju fighting organizations would be helpful. He invites them to dinner to discuss a united effort, and they agree. Agent Morheim stays back, saying she's going to look for trace materials from Bemular. An image of a featureless creature comes out of her eyes, and she reports the consolidation efforts to them. They find it good news, actually, since infiltrating one organization is easier than many smaller ones. But uh-oh, Agent Duguette felt bad leaving her there alone, so he doubled back to help her out. She spins, revealing alien eyes. The creature says to eliminate him, and she fries him up good with eye beams. The humans can never be allowed to know the truth of their world.
That was totally wicked!
I love this story. I love this story. I love this story. The art, the atmosphere, the sense of seeing everything from the beginning. It has mystery, intrigue, and more action than the main story. I don't care if the other issues of this run are $5.99 if it means we get 20 pages of Ultraman and 10 pages of Ultra Q. I guess I'll call this Ultra Q issue number 1, and it easily gets a 5 out of 5. Next time on a comically long review is Draken New Dawn issue number 2. For real this time. That's going to do it for another comically long review. Thank you heroes so much as always for watching. Now that the video's done, you can let me know what you thought of this debut issue and my review of it down in the comments below. And while you're down there, make sure you smack that thumbs up button and let me know that you enjoyed this video. Until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Because I don't really have an Ultraman joke to apply to that. She looks at messages from someone named Shin, who seems to be taking her out. This comic is so informative. Yeah. The first teaches about not killing a kaiju until you're sure it doesn't have a power that can be reversed engineered.